March 23rd, 2015 to order. And I would first like to say thank you to Deputy Clark for being here, and please silence your cell phones. We have a quorum. Ms. Gramp, would you please lead us in the pledge? May I have a motion to approve the agenda? Motion by Ms. Blaylock and a second by Mr. Blaine. All those in favor? Aye. 7-0. On to item 2.01, we do not have a public hearing, so moving on to 3.01, Lee Hill Elementary Kindergarten Math Skills. Ms. Flenard.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Baker and Dr. Martin. Lee Hill Elementary's kindergarten students have been working very hard on their math representations and their problem solving. They're using exemplar problems along with problems that were developed by the kindergarten team. This evening, several of our kindergarten students will be presenting their mathematical thinking. The instructional highlight is presented by Nancy Ashbrook, our math specialist, and the following teachers and students. If you could please stand when your name is called, and then you may begin. We have Miss Briley with Layla McKnight. We have Mrs. Burnett with Emma Payne. We have Mrs. Criego with Annalise Yalberg. Mrs. Fansett with Braden Kelly. And Mrs. Young with Sam Velasco.
And before you this evening to share an example of a wonderful instructional practice occurring at Lee Hill in kindergarten. Our kindergarten team will share instructional strategies they put in place to support increased rigor in math. You will see evidence of how our team works collaboratively with our math specialist, Nancy Ashbrook, to support student learning opportunities through our professional learning communities. At this time, I'd like to present the one and only Mrs. Ashbrook. And as she comes to the podium, I'd like to thank our teachers, Mr. Armstrong, our student teacher, Mrs. Ewell, all of our parents and students for sharing with us tonight. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Nancy Ashbrook, and I'm one of the 8 math specialists that are in the county. I have the privilege to work with students and staff at Lee Hill Elementary and Courthouse Road Elementary. Last year, during our PLC time, the kindergarten teachers and I were brainstorming ways that we could get kindergartners to become better math thinkers. We explored students solving exemplar problems that were purchased by the county several years ago. Exemplars are rich mathematical tasks that ask students to solve problems with representations, communication, reasoning, and connections. The kindergarten students have been busy solving exemplar problems along with exemplar type problems that were written by the teachers. Each teacher has brought a student and their example to show tonight, and the students will be able to explain their math thinking. So we'll start with Miss Briley.
Good evening.
Thank you. Yep, there we
Okay,
go.
perfect. I'll go ahead and read our problem that we had for this time. It says each child got 3 candy canes. Each candy cane had 4 red stripes. How many red stripes in all? Leila, what did you do first?
I drew the people holding candy canes.
And
I drew the people holding candy canes.
what did you do next?
I drew the stripes on the candy canes.
And what did you do last?
I counted the stripes, and there were 12 in all
And how do we know that there's 12 in all?
because I drew my answer.
Very good. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Megan Burnett, and this is my student Emma Payne. Our problem was, it's your birthday. You got 10 balloons. The first one is red, the second one is blue, the third one is blue, and the fourth one is red. What color is the 10th balloon? Okay, so tell them what you did first.
I drew 10 balloons, and then I colored them in. And I colored them until I got to the last one, and the last one was blue.
Very good. So then you, what was this?
I wrote the word blue and put a square around it.
Very good. Next is Miss Criego.
Hello, I'm Willa Criego, and this is Annalise Yalbert. I'm going to read our problem. There was a plate of grapes in the kitchen. Lisa, Angela, and Kate wanted grapes for a snack. Each of the girls ate 2 grapes each. There were no more grapes on the plate. How many grapes did the girls eat altogether? Can you tell me about your picture?
Okay. I drew the 3 girls, and then I drew all the grapes that they had, and I drew little stems, and then I wrote my answer, and I put grapes there, and my answer was 6.
6 grapes. Okay. You want to tell us anything else about your drawing?
No.
Next, Emily Fancy.
Stand up. Okay, you're gonna look right here. I'm Emily Fansett, and this is my student Braden Kelly. Braden solved a problem about cars. It says Max counts cars going past his house. First, Max counts 3 cars. Next, Max counts 1 car. Last, Max counts 2 cars. How many cars did Max count going past his house? Can you tell us about your work, Braden?
First, I drew 3 cars, then I drew 1, then I drew 2.
Why did you draw the, hold on, why did you draw the 3 cars first?
Because it said 3 cars right there.
Okay, and then what happened?
Then 1 car.
Mm-hmm.
I draw 1 car.
And how about
right there.
Yep, and then what happened?
And then I draw 2 cars because it said it right there.
So how many cars went past Max's house?
6.
6 cars. Next up is Miss Young. Okay.
You want to come down one? Good evening. I'm Linda Young. This is my student Sam Velasco. And our problem tonight is that we're talking about pencils. There we go. And our problem was that Jenny has 7 pencils, and Seth gave her 1 more pencil. And how many pencils does Jenny have in all? So, Sam, can you explain what you did on your paper?
Tally marks as the pencils, and 1 purple tally mark as the one Seth gave her.
And how many did you have in all?
8.
Okay, and then what was this bottom box that you drew?
10 frame.
10 frame, so another way to show how many pencils we had. And then what was the very thing at the bottom that you wrote?
A math.
Sentence. And read us your math sentence.
7 plus 1 equals 8.
Very good job.
Our grade level looked over the exemplars that were already on score and decided to create our own that aligned with the kindergarten curriculum. The problems are rigorous, but the students have an opportunity to enter into problem solving depending upon their level of understanding. All the students had a strategy to solve the problems. Some strategies just worked better than others.
Thank you so much. You guys have some math geniuses over there at Lee Hill. Oh my, yes, you know. You guys are super smart in math. And I bet you're really good readers too. Because you've got to be able to do those math questions and listen and hear and read everything. Good job, everybody. And teachers, thank you so much for all your hard work. It's truly a blessing to be able to see you come up here with the students and show the love and affection that you have with your students, and to show the growth and how their brains are working and mathematically. Way to go. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Well, of course, I'm going to speak. Very proud of everyone. I want to highlight the students. Great job, but you wouldn't be here without those fabulous teachers and our math specialists. And I know Ms. Cunningham and Mr. Armstrong would say the same. So thank you for all you do to teach our children. And I want to ask the children to please stand so we can give you one round of applause. You can stand at your seat just for the kids. Good job. Very good. And I especially like the very last slide where Mr. Velasco has showed us 3 different ways to solve the problem. And so that is showing that in-depth learning and that expansion in math. So great job.
Mr. Braswell, you said something?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to take this opportunity to commend the program that you put together. It is so important for young people to see how math is important in everyday life. And each one of those examples, it shows that as they engage the world, mathematics is a critical part of their understanding of the world. And so I just think it's wonderful that you've integrated it in such a way, and that you've integrated it in such a way where they can have an opportunity to master it in the future. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. On to 4.01, we're on to recognitions and awards. 4.01, Virginia Group 5A State Wrestling Champion, Mr. Wolf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Baker, Dr. Martin. This evening, I am pleased to share with you that Massaponax sophomore Thomas Parsons is the state champion for the Virginia Group 5A 170-pound wrestling competition that was held on February 20th, 2015. Thomas is only the 2nd state champion in Massaponax High School history. He finished the season with a record of 34-3 and was also the regional champion. Congratulations, Thomas. Thomas, if the coach is here, if you could come up as well.
Group shot here. Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more, just make sure. 1, 2.
Mr. Wolf, before you continue, I want to give Ms. Blaylock an opportunity to offer her comments.
Yeah, I want to say a few words about Thomas before he walks away. It's rare that I get a night like tonight where we have Lee Hill, the wrestling, and our theater from Massaponax that are really close and dear to my heart. But I want to talk about the wrestling program at Ponax just a little bit. I'm very familiar with this program, and I've got to give a huge shout out to Coach Doug Milburn, who has done a great job with a young group of boys. They've become brothers, They're good kids, and they strive for the best because of your leadership. And Thomas, what I want to say to you is what most people don't realize is Thomas is only a sophomore. He placed in the state last year, 7th. Won the state champion this year, so I expect to see a couple more times you back at the school board office the next 2 years. He also is about to be honored, and I won't get ahead of us. He's a part of the theater group that's going to be honored tonight. But many of you might not know that Thomas is also in the finals for robotics next weekend at the state level. So we could end up with a 3-time state champion across the board. And what not only that says about Thomas and his drive, but it makes me feel good as a school board member that we have a division that offers such a range for a student to compete in, and not only compete but excel like Thomas Parsons. Thomas, I'm very proud of you. Congratulations.
And if Mr. Wolf, if you would continue with the Virginia High School League Group 5A Conference, Regional, and State Theater Champion.
Thank you, Mr. Braswell. We are proud to share that this year's VHSL Group 5A Conference, Region, and State Theater Champion is Massaponax High School for their performance of Who is Chasing Whom by Lynn Alvarez. When I call your name, if those students could please come forward to be recognized. Playing the part of Whom, Kylie Westerbeck. Playing the part of Who, Thomas Kurth. Part of the vocal symphony, these students, Catherine Dobbins, Miranda Wood, Philip Gall, James Higgins, and Kathleen West. In the sign trio, we have Ashley Cabrera and Madeline Ferlazzo. In ensemble, we have Alexa Levis, Thomas Parsons, Nicole McCallick, Caitlin Woodford, Ashley Perkins, Emily Whalen, and Hannah Smedick. And for lights, we have Kayla DeCanio, and all of these students under the direction of Massaponax Theater Director Kim Kemp. In addition, Kylie Westerbeck was selected Outstanding Actor for the Group 5A Conference, Region, and State. With her previous acting awards, she is the most decorated actor in Massaponax High School's history. Congratulations to the entire cast and crew and Ms. Kemp for a job well done.
Everybody look this way. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I'm going to take one more just to make sure. 1, 2, 3. Don't move. There's other photographers. So anybody else want to show?
And students, prior to you heading back to your seat, if we have parents in the audience tonight, a congratulations to our parents for the support that they happen to give for our programs as well. So if those parents could stand to be recognized. Thank you.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. Just make sure. 1, 2, 3. All right.
On to item 5.01, public comments. Dr. Martin.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The public comment segment of our board meetings is a time to receive recommendations, suggestions, concerns, and comments from the general public. Each speaker is allotted 5 minutes, and we ask that they clearly state the name, address, and/or voting district for the board. A speaker may request additional time from the board should one's 5-minute allotment expire. We ask that you keep your comments focused on the issues and that all speakers maintain a level of decorum and mutual respect for one another. At this time, Madam Chair, I don't have anyone signed up on the list, but I defer back to you to open it up to the floor.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak, did not get a chance to sign up? Okay, well, with that, I'm going to close public comments and move on to 5.02, board member comments. I'm going to start with Ms. Grant, please.
I have nothing this evening.
Mr. Blaine.
Several times I've had an opportunity to comment upon the quality of our staff, and I'm constantly impressed with what people do. And I had an opportunity about the 1st of March to talk to one of our teachers, Kimberly Riddle, at Chancellor High School, and she was responsible for getting students ready for the placement test, and came up and said, Mr. Blaine, you know, we were $3,100 short. Some of the youngsters were not able to afford the money. I've been out working and independently by herself knocking on doors and businesses for contributions. And at that point, she had been able to collect about half of what she needed, about $1,500. I just got a note from her yesterday saying that they're almost there. They're still $394 short. And I thought this might be an opportunity to speak to our listening and viewing audience. If there's anyone that would like to help out a couple of students, please call Chancellor High School and talk to Ms. Riddle. I know that she'd be very gracious in accepting a contribution. And my compliments to her for going that extra mile. I just can't help but recognize what a great job she does. So.
Mr. Braswell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a few comments. First of all, I want to take an opportunity to commend Head Start. We had a very successful Dr. Seuss night at Salem Elementary. It was very well attended. There was a lot of excitement with the young people that were present, and there was a lot of enthusiasm by the teachers that gave of their time to provide an additional educational experience for these young people. We hear quite a bit, especially you'll hear from Mr. Blaine, of the importance of preschool education and inspiring young people to have a love for learning. And it was clearly evident in that program that was put together by Ms. Dawn Miller and her team, that it was worthy of commendation. I really enjoyed myself being there. I really enjoy the opportunity to come out and fellowship with that particular department and what they do for education in Spotsylvania County. And I want to continue to encourage them to continue to do the great work that they do in inspiring our young people to be the best that they can possibly be. I also want to take a moment to commend our nurses. I've looked and seen quite a few messages that showed a myriad of different medical maladies that we've experienced throughout the division. And our nurses have stepped forward in a very professional way and have taken care of not only our children, but in some cases our parents and faculty as well. So I salute them for the great work that they do and their professionalism and being there to take care of our most valuable assets, our students. And finally, I'd like to just make an announcement again as a reminder that on the 25th of March at 7 o'clock at Cortland High School in the library, myself and Mr. Yakubowski will have a joint town hall meeting. We welcome the public to come out and address issues that are of concern to them, and we will be available to answer those questions as fully as possible. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mrs. Blaylock. Dr. Meyer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd also like to announce, as Mr. Braswell did, that the Cortland District will host a community forum at Riverbend High School Library, 7 p.m. on March 25th. The two of us are hosting forums at the same time. And I'd also like to announce that, for the record, that I am running for re-election for the school board to represent the Cortland District. So with that, I pass the gavel. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Laura.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to give a special recognition to Mr. Perry Clark, Sergeant Clark of the Spotsylvania Sheriff's Office. Wave your hand, sir. Undergraduate Spotsylvania High School. I've known him all his adult life, and he has contributed a great deal to this community, a role model in our school. Are you still in charge of the SRO, sir? Yes, thank you. Thank you for a job well done. We have with us Mr. Mo Pedway. Sir, would you stand? Mr. Pedway, of course, is a president and very active in our community, president of the NAACP. Thank you for being with us today. To the principals and teachers, all I have to say to you is hang in there a few more days and spring break will be with us. So, and lastly, Mr. Hockaday, I know that lacrosse, baseball, and softball season have still already started, which means that you can put away all your snow removal equipment until next year. And thank you for helping us survive this past winter. Take care. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Laura. And then I just have a couple of things. Tomorrow evening, we, the board, will be working with our Board of Supervisors in a joint work session. So that starts at 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. And then this Thursday evening at Cortland High School is the county's public hearing on their budget and their CIP, and that begins at 5:30, 6 o'clock, 6:30. I'm sorry. I saw something starts at 5:30. So if you want to sign up in advance, you can go onto the county's website, and it gives you information on how to sign up to be a speaker for the public hearing on if you would like to speak about the budget. And with that, I'm going to move to Superintendent Report 5.03. Dr. Baker.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. I don't have a lot of comments this evening, but echo all of the comments that were shared earlier about the instructional highlight as well as the recognitions. Being a former theater teacher, I'm extremely proud of the Massaponax High School state winners, but I've also been able to go out and see some productions at our other schools, and like so many of our programs, we see great equity in terms of quality of our talent, our teachers and their leadership and their direction. And so we're, again, very fortunate to have such a strong department in theater and in the fine arts in general. I did want to share one reminder with the board, that just to make sure that you knew that we had not forgotten as staff, but the reason that we did not include a calendar update is because we were going to bring a calendar update if between the last board meeting and tonight's we received any additional inclement weather, but we did not, fortunately, and so we remain holding firm and fast as to trying to make it to our end of the year, and also holding May 1st right now as a half day. If the unthinkable occurs, we still could come back in April with a request for modifications of the calendar. But right now, we're going to hold firm. So I just wanted to let you know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. On to special reports, item 6.01, board committee reports. Anybody have any board committee reports? Okay, I'm just going to mention, this past Thursday, we met with the Food Task Force. Just a couple things. Our charges are down from December, and our food sales are about on par as they were last year, and that includes, there have been some new guidelines that the USDA has put on schools, which include more whole wheat and less sodium. So I'm going to say that our food service provider, Sodexo, has been doing a good job of keeping the food flavorful, and our students are still purchasing our food. So I just wanted to pass that on as well. So I will close board committee report. If there's no more, I will close board committee reports and move on to the consent agenda items. Dr. Martin.
On the consent agenda this evening are the minutes of the February 24th joint work session with the Board of Supervisors to present the school board's FY 2016 budget. We have the March 9th, 2015 workshop meeting minutes, the March 9th, 2015 regular meeting, and donations which are usual and customary. Staff asks that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
A motion by Ms. Gramp.
Second.
A second by Dr. Meyer. All those in favor of the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 7-0. Okay, thank you. On to action items. 8.01, approval for contract award for on-call construction services. Ms. Finley and Mr. Hockaday.
Good evening, Ms. Shelley, board members, Dr. Baker, and Dr. Meyer. I'll be presenting this evening along with Sean Hockaday, Director of Maintenance. The school division issued a request for proposals for on-call construction services for use by Spotsylvania County Schools Maintenance Department. The procurement was advertised on EVA, published on the division's website, also published in EVA, which is the statewide procurement portal, and an ad placed in the Freelance Star, all of which resulted in 6 vendors sending in proposals. The evaluation committee, which consisted of 3 individuals, individually reviewed, scored each proposal. Once the scoring was complete, the scores were sent back to purchasing, where they were compiled and the top scoring proposals identified. Negotiations were then conducted with the top 4 vendors. The purpose and intent of the request for proposals was to establish a pool of vendors for on-call construction purposes. The evaluation criteria with the assigned weight, which was 100 total points possible, are as follows. Experience, vendor qualification, and ability to perform were worth 35 points. Key staff qualifications were worth 15. Response to scope of work was worth 25. Proposed cost was 10 points. And experience with similar projects was 15 points. If approved, this contract will allow our maintenance department to have a pool of 4 different vendors with varied specialties so that they can choose any vendor necessary for any construction project that needs to be completed. Staff is requesting that the school board award the contracts to the top 4 firms, each for 1 year with 4 additional renewal options. The vendors to be awarded are Greenfield Construction, Haley Builders, A.D. Whitaker Construction, and HIT Contracting. This contract is only for projects that the total cost is below $250,000. Any projects with costs estimated over $250,000 will be solicited individually. Once again, I would like to thank you for allowing me to present to you this evening. Mr. Hockaday and I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
We have a motion, please.
So moved, Madam Chair.
So, Dr.
I will second that.
I think Ms. Blaylock has already got the second. Thank you. And do we have any questions or comments? Mr. Braswell.
Sir, ma'am, my first question pertains to your evaluative criteria.
Okay.
I see here that proposed cost was rated the lowest of the 5 criteria that you used to evaluate. Why was that?
It was deemed that it was more important to have highly qualified individuals on call to be able to perform any sort of task that we may have come available in case of an emergency or anything else that may come up for us that needs to be completed. And we wanted to have vendors that, yes, they have, I'm sorry, excuse me, I lost my train of thought. We wanted to have vendors that had the qualifications that were needed, that we would know would be able to complete the projects without any questions.
I concur with that. My only concern is why was it rated last?
Usually, Mr. Braswell, what you find, these are for general contractors, which cover a broad scope of services. A lot of times when you go out for bid, and if you weigh the cost higher, you will find somebody that is very strong in one area but not as strong in others, and they put their price in there, betting on that's what their services will be required. So doing it this way, we found that you get a general contractor that has a broader scope, that can cover many more services for you, and usually a more solid contractor than a contractor that has one specialty.
Or just trying to be the cheapest show in town.
Yes,
Gotcha.
sir.
Okay. And the other question I had, and I don't know if this is standard, how was $250,000 selected as the ceiling for triggering a bid that would have to come to us? Why was it 250 and not maybe 200, or wasn't it higher? Or
We worked with purchasing and procurement, and we had looked at prior years, prior types of work we had done through maintenance, through some of the summer work we've done through CIP. We also put a list of projects together that happened on an emergency basis, which is the backbone of this when we need somebody in emergency type service. And that's kind of where the top end of the prices were. Honestly, I had asked for it to be higher. I went to purchasing, worked with Mrs. Gaines and the rest of the department, and we come up with that figure. We felt that that was a safe amount, that if we had an emergency, we could handle it within that cost. If it was any higher, we felt we would have to go to the board.
okay, so in other words, that was a cap that we put on based off of historical
Yes, sir.
benefits. Okay, understand. Thank you.
Anyone else? I do have a question. When you say emergencies, can you give me an example of something that's happened in the past? We kind of have an idea.
Several years ago, I'm trying to think of what year it was. The winters are starting to run together, but we had several years ago, we had about 18 inches of snow. 2010, there you go. We discovered we had some roofs that we needed to take a look at. We had a roof at Chancellor High School in the gym. We discovered that afternoon that we had some of the beams were starting to bow. We called our contractor about 2 o'clock, about 8:30 that evening. He had 4 tractor trailers with rigging set up in the parking lot. We put bracing in the gym that night. They worked 24 hours straight. It was either that or we were going to have to find a way to melt the snow on top of the entire building. So that's one example. There are many others, but that's one example.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of approval of the contract for on-call construction, aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, on item 9.01, 02, and 03, informational items. Nothing there? All right, thank you. So on to 10.01, unfinished business. Does anyone have any unfinished business? I have one item. I just wanted to remind everybody, at our last meeting, we had our work session, our workshop prior to it. The date for our next workshop was already on the calendar, so I just wanted to remind everyone that our next workshop is June 8th at 4 o'clock. So just as a reminder for that. Okay, any new business? 10.02. All right, on to closed meeting. Be it resolved that the school board conduct a closed meeting for the following purposes: consideration of candidates for employment, assignment, promotion, demotion, discipline of employees, or resignation of employees who have a contractual commitment to the board as permitted 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, can you also include in that motion the superintendent's mid-year goal-setting review? It's part of personnel, but so that the
Yes,
public knows.
and it is,
that
yes, and
it's
then we
on the
will be,
agenda and we're
yes, it's
gonna-
on the agenda, and we will be discussing our superintendent's mid-year goal review.
Thank you,
Thank you, Dr. Meyer.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Dr. Meyer, and second by Mr. Braswell. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? We are in closed session. Motion to return to open session.
So moved.
Dr. Meyer, a second?
Second.
I think Ms. Blaylock got that. All those in favor of coming back to open session? Aye. All opposed? 7-0. Whereas the Spotsylvania County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the school board that such a closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Spotsylvania County Board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under this chapter, and only such business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting. Roll call vote, starting with Ms. Grant, please. Oh, okay, motion.
Blaine, aye.
Wait, I forgot. Motion. Although I need a motion. Okay, Mr. Blaine?
Second.
Dr. Meyer for certification. Motion for
Grant, aye.
Grant.
Blaine, aye.
Braswell, aye.
Shelley, aye.
Blaylock, aye.
Meyer, aye.
7-0. Item from the closed meeting. Dr. Martin.
Motion is that the school board accepts the recommendation of the superintendent for personnel appointments, assignments, resignations, retirements, terminations, and the request for extended leave for the 2015-16 school year as presented in closed meeting and permitted by Section 2.2-3711A1 at the Code of Virginia.
Madam Chair, I'd also like to include that we also discuss the superintendent's evaluation for the chair to be able to sign the mid-year assessment review.
Okay, thank you. That was the motion. Do I have a motion to that effect?
I will second it then.
Okay, well, no, that, Mr. Blaine, you're the motion? Well, you made the I'm sorry. I'm tired. Okay, Dr. Meyer's motion, Mr. Blaine is the second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion for adjournment, Mr. Laura, and a second by Ms. Gramp. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.